After his father passed away, Jonathan was devastated to learn that he would not be succeeding his father as president of Daystar. Prior to his passing, Marcus informed his loved ones and the board that I would succeed him as president. Please accept my deepest gratitude for bringing Jonathan into my life, Jony's life, and our family's life as a whole. Lord, he is a wonderful son and an excellent Christian youth. I am grateful that you looked after him, kept him, and guided him. You are so very appreciated for giving him Susie and, more recently, these two beautiful grandchildren. We hope you have a pleasant return to our channel. To find out what really happened with the Lamb family, here's a movie with some leaked audio. Pay careful attention. It wasn't a one-and-done deal for Marcus Lamb. Over the course of 7 years, they were involved with another person. It's an entire chapter of their life, not merely a moment of weakness. Jony Lamb's life was profoundly affected by that period. Imagine for a second, 7 years of being misled, emotionally distant, and unnoticed despite your growing sense that something was amiss. You two have built your perfect Christian marriage, public faith, and television persona on that. It's crushing on the soul. It's hard. Not only did Jony's heart break, but she was publicly shamed and privately broken as well. Especially when millions of people observe your lives and pretend nothing is wrong, it's impossible to simply forgive and move on. I think that's the most challenging part. As the audience watched them pray, smile, and hold hands on stage, Jony was busy behind the scenes just getting by. She put on an act, styling her hair and applying makeup, but deep down she was hurting. Nobody wants to admit it, but she never fully recovered. It takes time for some cuts to heal. In fact, some of them worsen and leave visible scars. Jony was hurt, so even though she worked, traveled, and did mission work with Marcus, their relationship was never the same. Things are currently becoming incredibly tragic and, to be honest, shocking. Even though he was aware that his time was limited, Mark Lamb did not turn to his wife in his last moments. Speaking to Denise Boggs, the family psychologist, 2 days before he passed away, he stated, "Here's what I want for Daystar. This is what should happen after I'm gone." This was in contrast to his decades-long relationship with Jony. Before leaving Daystar, Marcus contacted Denise to share his final thoughts on the company's future. Take some time to consider that. It seems to reason that the last conversation should take place with your partner if you love them deeply and are prepared to marry them. Surely his wife Jony would have been more appropriate had she been holding his hand when he spoke those words. That is not how it transpired. As an alternative, he decided to broach the subject with someone else. The thing that Marcus told Denise sounds nothing like what Jony claims he wanted. We are left with a significant question: who is speaking the truth, given the apparent contradiction? Now that we have that audio file, let's discuss Jony's emotions and spiritual thoughts during that time. For her, the adultery and subsequent 7-year betrayal constituted more than simply an issue within her marriage. An emotional wound had been inflicted. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. According to Proverbs 6, the Bible states it plainly like this: adultery damages many things, including marriages, trust, family relationships, and even missions. I think that's what's happening right now. Marcus may have triggered a series of events for which nobody was prepared. The secrets that were kept for the benefit of the reputation, the company, and the television show, including the deceit, the pain, and the brokenness. Yet at this very moment, all of that is crumbling. Marcus and Jony weren't merely a couple. They were the public faces of Daystar, which further complicates matters. Many tuned in to hear them discuss topics like love, healing, and forgiveness. When you're still hurting, it's hard to bring up the topic of forgiving someone. With a house in such disrepair, how are you going to manage your business? A lot of people are just now beginning to understand this to be true. It makes you question the authenticity of Daystar and the degree to which it was merely an acting job. As the words of Luke 8:17 say, "There is nothing hidden that will not be made known, and there is nothing secret that will not be known and come to light." The hidden truths are now being revealed. Now everyone can hear and see what was said behind closed doors. Let's consider the implications of this information before moving on to Marcus's remarks during that final phone conversation with Denise. It's about more than just tying the knot. What happens when Christian leaders lead double lives, when faith masks hurt, and when public speaking takes priority over personal healing, is the central theme of this story. A church wake-up call, not a mere rumor. As 1 Peter 4:17 puts it, "For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God." Perhaps this exposure is a part of that judgment. a moment when the truth is being revealed, despite its messiness and pain. Listening to Marcus's actual words in his final days, we can ask, why didn't he tell Joni? We now know about Joni's pain, the broken marriage, and the lack of closure. Why did he doubt her abilities to guide Daystar into the future? Because the moment you hear the sound, your entire world shifts. After his father passed away, Jonathan was devastated to learn that he would not be succeeding his father as president of Daystar. Prior to his passing, Marcus informed his loved ones and the board that I would succeed him as president. The pain of disappointment that Jonathan felt when I wed Dr. Doug Weiss only intensified. After Marcus Lamb passed away, Jony Lamb said that her son Jonathan was devastated that he would not succeed him as president of Daystar. The next president would be her, she claimed, because Marcus had already informed the board and her family. Behind the scenes, things appeared to become much more challenging as she was making her decision. It was Dr. Doug Weiss who she eventually wed. We need to take a step back and approach this as a family issue rather than a business or Christian television network. This is a household. Because Marcus was the patriarch of the family, his death likely hit close to home for all of his relatives. Though grieving the loss of his father, Jonathan couldn't help but wonder what would become of the church they had worked so hard to build. His intense disappointment at not being named president is understandable. That level of melancholy doesn't materialize out of nowhere. He may have felt he had accomplished enough, been good enough, or simply been chosen to carry on the legacy. Things start to get heavier now, though. According to Joni, Marcus had previously stated that she, and not Jonathan, should have leadership responsibilities. To rephrase, Marcus had stated before he passed away that Jonathan's expectations were at odds with his words. Not only did he desire a title, but he also felt unheard and ignored by the person he most admired, which added to his sadness. As if that weren't challenging enough, Joni claims that marrying Dr. Doug only made Jonathan's misery worse. This isn't your average second marriage. It requires further dismantling. A tragic event occurred in Joni's family not long after she remarried. Whether she's willing to admit it or not, the public's fascination with her new marriage may have affected her connection with her children. Numerous individuals, particularly those with strong ties to Marcus and the Lamb family, perceived Doug Weiss as more than simply Marcus's spouse. His ideas, background and leadership style were completely different from anyone else. The fact that Jonathan's mother brought up Doug only made things worse for him. Not only was he already wounded, but he also felt ignored. Time to grieve is necessary for proper healing. The pain can intensify when hasty decisions are made, particularly in a grieving family. I'd like to shift gears for a second and introduce you to Mrs. Denise Boggs, whose opinion has grown significantly throughout this discussion. Guess who it is? Although Denise did stay at the Lamb house on occasion, she was more than a passing acquaintance. Her family approved of her and put their faith in her. She really served as a counselor for the whole family. They sought her out for emotional and spiritual support when times got tough. When Denise speaks, people listen. When she discusses Marcus and his last words in particular, they listen intently. The fact that she was a fellow human being, not an outsider, gave her remarks more weight. To her family, she was very dear. This brings us to the audio clip that is going to play on the radio. Joni may have been exaggerating about what's in it. It was recorded shortly before Marcus passed away. Why? Because in this clip, Marcus says something to Denise. He discusses his goals for the ministry's expansion, his time as a leader, and the future of the Daystar. Furthermore, it differs significantly from what Joni informed everyone. Although we are still hesitant to declare a winner or loser, we must be forthright. This type of dispute does not arise spontaneously. We must halt when two individuals assert their knowledge of Marcus's desires, yet their accounts conflict. We ought to probe a bit more. Not only is there an issue of he said, she said, but the truth is at stake. Indeed, it ought to be known by all. Those who have invested time, money, or faith in Daystar care about the leadership team. We need to know if the leadership change was sincere or if it's a cover-up. As you listen to Denise Boggs' recording, bear that in mind. Given that the board's position was already crystal clear, why would Marcus bring up the subject of Daystar's fate with his family counselor? Before it was made public, who was aware of this discussion? To what extent does this video reveal Marcus's genuine motives? It is audible to the human ear. After that, you'll have to wonder if Marcus intended for Joni to assume control, or if there's more to the story than what we know. Your entire worldview may be shaken by what you're about to hear. Denise Boggs is my name. 2 days prior to Marcus's death, something occurred. The Lamb family was friends with me, and I knew them. I answered the phone to find him on the other end. Runt, listen, Miss Denise, I need you to jot down a few things for me, he said. I responded, okay, Marcus, I'll be happy to. He continued, you know Joni and I built Daystar, but I really believe it's time for me to say that we built it so the children could carry it on.
I nodded in agreement. He then asked if I had written down his statement, to which I replied, yes. He continued, well, first there's our son Jonathan, and he would be the one who needs to step in and take over. He's the first lamb. I am eternally grateful that you blessed my life, Jony's life, and our family's life with Jonathan. Lord, he is a wonderful son and an excellent Christian youth. I am grateful that you looked after him, kept him, and guided him. You have my gratitude for entrusting Susie to him, Lord. Here are these two adorable grandkids, Lord. And then there's his wife, Susie. Susie Lamb, the name she adopted from him, will always be there to lend him a hand. He informed me. And then there's Rachel Lamb Brown, and she will be beside him on the other side, helping him to keep everything going. And I need to make sure now you're writing it down. Yes, Marcus, I'm writing it down. He went on. Then there's Rebecca Lamb Weiss, and she will be like on the other side, like Aaron, and her holding up Jonathan's arms, and her husband Jonathan Wise will be alongside her to help her. Are you writing that down? Said he. Even though I knew he had forgotten someone, I said nothing after he finished saying, yes, Marcus, I'm writing it down. I also knew that he probably didn't bring up Joshua Brown, because what had transpired in the family had given him a lot of pain. I refrained from inquiring about that though. No one could control or manipulate him. He could speak his mind. He responded with, okay, thank you. You make sure it gets where it needs to go. I responded with, okay, I will. Afterwards, he ended the call, or had someone else end it for him. Afterwards, I did distribute it to various relatives. So I informed Jony, so that everyone was aware. I informed Rachel and Rebecca about what had transpired. Particularly after hearing them, some things are difficult to forget. While watching Daystar, I vividly recall Marcus Lamb mentioning his son Jonathan. He didn't merely bring him up once. He repeatedly stated his intention to prepare Jonathan to assume leadership of Daystar in the future. It sounded like an actual strategy, a long-standing custom being carried on from one generation to another. The father's optimism was more than that. Not only did I remember hearing it, but so did many others. A global audience tuned in to hear it as it unfolded live on television. Due to Jonathan's absence from Daystar today, one can't help but wonder, what the heck happened? It was true that he was forcibly removed from the situation. Jony Lamb, his mother, removed him from his home. That is both shocking and painful. And I'm referring to a son whose mother publicly rejected him and his family because he refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement or remain silent about his moral convictions. How did this family end up here? I am eternally grateful that you brought Jonathan into my life, Jony's life, and the life of our entire family. Lord, he is a wonderful son and an excellent Christian youth. I am grateful that you looked after him, kept him, and guided him. You have my gratitude for entrusting Susie to him, Lord. Here are these two adorable grandkids, Lord. Plus, Lord, I see great things in Jonathan's future. On a daily basis, I ask that your Holy Spirit will lead him, teach him to pay attention, absorb information, mature in his faith, and foster strong relationships with you, Susie, his children, and particularly his siblings. Jesus, you are already aware of this. After Jony wed Dr. Doug Weiss, things obviously changed. Many have been perplexed by that link. While some may be attempting objectivity at this stage, the truth is that the storm has been brewing for some time. For a long time, Jonathan had been reporting to his dad, who was the boss. He was more than just the father's son. He had also been groomed for leadership roles, and was prepared to continue the family legacy. There was no public farewell or acknowledgement. He simply disappeared. The fact that it appears to be related to power, control, and secrecy just makes it worse. Supposedly, Jonathan couldn't publicly discuss what's happening behind the scenes because he was compelled to sign a non-disclosure agreement. His response was abruptly denied. Think about it. You were raised to help run the church your dad started, and now you're being told to either be quiet or leave. That's sad, but it's also confusing. Since it defies logic, there must be some underlying cause. Something else that keeps popping into my head is the call that Denise Boggs and Marcus Lamb had just before Marcus passed away. Denise served as a counselor for the Lamb family, in addition to being a friend, in case you were unaware. She prayed alongside them, listened attentively, and offered guidance rooted in her own spiritual development. Since we covered this ground previously, I pay attention and take her word for it whenever she brings it up. She ought to have recorded that call, though. This was a crucial discussion. It appears that Marcus was conveying his final thoughts and formal wishes to Daystar and his family. There would have been no room for misunderstandings, disputes, or conflicting accounts if an audio recording had been available. There would be no opinions, just facts. It was audible to everyone. However, I believe that even in the absence of a recording, the intensity with which she discusses Marcus comes through in her voice. She isn't trying to gain fame or fortune by being here. Honestly, all she's doing is following her belief that God instructed her to do. Someone is being truthful when their words come out of a caring and loving place, rather than a place of arrogance or anger. If you've ever heard Denise speak in such a way, you'll understand. Her gracefulness is evident, even when she recounts a tragic tale. The fact that Marcus contacted Denise by phone rather than email is another crucial piece of information. Considering that texts can be fabricated, it may not appear to be a major issue at first. Scammers who do that are well known to everyone. By manipulating the language and address, they can make a message appear to have originated from someone other than the intended recipient. Contrarily, a phone call does not allow for prying eyes. That is the here and now. The urgency, the anguish, and the tone are all audible. Marcus opted to express his thoughts verbally. I will not believe an email that someone claims Marcus wrote ever again if they try to use it as evidence of anything else. Words on a screen are easy to edit, but a man's voice and what he says when the stakes are high are much more difficult to alter. Ultimately, it's not all about titles or power. Trust and Marcus's true mission goals are at the heart of the story. He hoped his creations would be preserved by those who would not alter them. But it's also about the truth, which must be revealed regardless of its ugliness.